Okay, this is my commentary on the future of online teaching. And I think for higher education, the challenge is the economic factor for online teaching. I think that students have figured out that it's cheaper to go to school online, stay at home, work. And although I think this experience is important for students, younger students, to go to college and get the college experience, I think master's degrees and EDSs and PhDs online are going to become the norm just because of the economic demands of our time. So higher education is going to have to rise to that. And I think it has addressed a lot of those challenges. It's given classes that have good content, a clear path to your degree. Um, I don't really feel like I've lost anything getting my master's degree online. I feel like, or and even my working on my EDS. I had my college experience, and it's kind of this time, this transition time in undergraduate, but in graduate school, I think that this is definitely the way to go, and I could not have gone otherwise. I did my teaching certificate back in 2009, and I was working part time and going to campus at Piedmont, and I felt like I was just going to pass out most of the time, just the driving, and it wasn't very far. So I think that the readings. I think the predictions between the two readings are similar and then they're different. But this whole COVID-19 thing has totally blown all of that out of the water for K 12 because those of us who are in distance education, we're fine. I have a niece who is at UMass at Amherst, and they've closed classes and gone to online. And I think that's for the undergraduate level, I think that's a real challenge. But I always go back to the economics of online learning. It's just cheaper to teach students online, and it's cheaper for students to go to school online. Um, so if you can't afford, and college has gotten so expensive, and student debt has gotten so expensive, that I feel like, in the end, online teaching is going to be that economic alternative. The comment about the Georgia in 2014 about the Georgia Tech online computer science degree. My son went to Georgia Tech and graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, and it cost us almost $100,000 for him to do that versus $7,000 to get his master's in computer science. There's just the dollars and cents make it so much more approachable that way. And he can work, if he wants to add a computer science degree to his ME. So I think that colleges have done a great job catching up and offering those courses, but at the same time, I think there's going to be more demand for those undergraduate courses. K 12, this whole COVID-19 thing, this has been quite a test of online education for K 12. We have a lot of parents who are calling in and who are like, this is too much work. I've got 2 or 3 kids, and I'm trying to get my work done, and then they're trying to get their work done, and they're asking me questions, and they email the teacher, and it's a lot of demand on families. I can see us going to a hybrid because, again, I think economically there's an advantage to taking maybe one day a week where it's online, you don't have the facility open, you don't have to pay, janitorial staff to clean, all of those things. But at the same time, I think families now are 2 income and there's not people home to watch those kids. I see it infusing in high school a whole lot faster than I do in K-8. I don't see middle schoolers are so unpredictable. I wouldn't leave my middle schoolers at home alone, and you probably wouldn't either. So I think that as far as the role of MOOCs and virtual technologies, I see teachers using those more. I think right now they're still cost prohibitive. I think, we had GPTV come out with their Oculus goggles and the kids loved it. But you really have to have some guidance through that. It's not something you can just hand a kid goggles and go to the Civil War, see what Andersonville looked like. It's not, those are enhancements at the moment. They're not necessarily teaching. And I think even teachers struggle with knowing how to use them, how to use those technologies in an educational format. So gamification, I think kids would love that, but at the same time, jobs are not games. There is problem solving involved, and my concern in that is that games are attractive, games are engaging, and solving a problem at work sometimes is not engaging. And so I think gamification is a good exercise in critical thinking, but I don't think it's the way industry works. And my fear is that we're setting up our industries for a lack of educated students who are ready to tackle a problem that may be just boring. And that's my big concern with virtual technologies is, all of us know some of work is just work. That's why it's called work. And it's not, some of it's not fun. And I see our kids pull back from, well, this is not fun. I'm not interested. This is not engaging, and it's like, wait a minute, it's not engaging to do my laundry either, but I have to have clean clothes. I do have to dust my house every now and then. All of those things, I think that's the other side of it, that there's still work to be done. And so I do see online learning, especially in a situation like this, of course, at the K-12 level, we're going to use online learning to keep going. But at the same time, I think this whole long stretch may hurt that diffusion because people are like, oh, I didn't like that. Parents are, oh, I didn't like that. I don't want to do that. On the other hand, I think teachers have kind of been baptized by fire. They have had to learn this quickly and make it happen and justify their work. And I think that on the other hand, then that's a good thing as well. Teachers are getting more comfortable with these platforms. I think the big advantage is it does push student-centered learning. Students have to figure it out. Teachers are the guide on the side. And I do think we need to move that way. I think we're in a generation of, and I think the pushback we've gotten from parents with this whole virtual learning for this COVID-19 outbreak has been because they were a generation who didn't have to figure it all out. There was the right answer, they get on the test, and you didn't have to do the critical thinking or the problem solving. So they're pushing back along with their kids because that was not the way they came up in schools. We were feeding them more than teaching them to grow in themselves. So I think the great advantage of this is it pushes us back to student-centered learning and students figuring things out and students using their critical thinking skills and being more independent and realizing that if they just don't bother, then they lose out. So I can't think of anything else I need to answer in this, but I think that right now, this is an incredible time to really test online learning at the K-12 level. I don't really know how it's going to come out. I know that this is a special situation, but at the same time, we have lots of things to learn through this situation. It's kind of like war. When you're in war, you have lots of things to learn from that altered situation. And I think we're going to learn a lot about online instruction, and teachers are going to be forced to learn a lot. And that may be where this diffusion of this innovation for online learning really turns a corner, at least in K-12. It seems like it's already turned a corner in university education. That's all I have to say. Bye.